is up, friends, and welcome to From the Mind of Dick. I hope everyone's doing well out there wherever you may be. If you are watching on video, which I hope you guys would watch these videos, I don't just make them so that I can make little clips and put them on Instagram. I hope you guys watch the videos and look at my ugly mug. But if you're watching on video, I tightened things up a little bit. I moved in front of a window, which has some really amazing light. And I think things look a little better. I got Vinny here in the background now. I wanted to showcase that because my daughter painted that, and it's, the legend, the goat. And then I got, this painting I've had for a million years. Looks like I'm almost holding it. And my loves of my life, my guitars, and my fake microphone. So anyway, I hope you guys like the new aesthetic. I think it's pretty badass with this natural light. I love natural light, not the beer. Of course, not the beer. We used to drink that shit back in the day. That's some fucking horse piss right there. That's why I got fancy and moved to Coors Light, which is basically water, but hey, you got us drunk, right? Anyway, this episode is brought to you by Natural Light. This episode is going to be about, it's kind of a new thing I want to do. I want to do an episode about basically mental health and sobriety together, how they work together in certain instances. I'll have a different subject and how I've gotten through mental health and sobriety together, right? Because they go hand in hand. I was a drunk. I drank because of poor mental health. And it's because of certain things that I've gone through in life. And it was the only way I could think to, I guess, numb the pain or just not think about it. And I felt like it helped, but it just hindered my life and it just didn't work. But I felt like it was helping at the time and it was all I could think of to do. It's kind of all I knew. So it was one of those things that every aspect of everything in my life had to do with mental health. And so I would drink. So it's how they tie together and how self-help. And I'm by no means a pro on that. I couldn't be a counselor on that, but I feel like I have a platform where I can speak about it, and it's my purpose. I feel like I've done it, and I feel like it's just my purpose to talk to people about it. So instead of bombarding you with every episode being about mental health and sobriety, but I want to do it once a month, and hopefully you guys dig it. Let me know what you think. I'm going to call it mental health and sobriety, and then this. So this episode is going to be about something that I know a lot about, and it's going to be about mental health, sobriety, how they go hand in hand, but then relationships and how things have changed with relationships for me since I got sober and since I changed my mentality. I want to tell a little story first. It's going to be a short little story about this guy that I just met. I met him a few weeks ago, and he's going through a lot with his ex-wife. So I won't tell his name or anything like that, and I'll try to shorten the story because it's kind of, it's not like we've been talking for a long time. It's just here and there. I run into the guy and we talk about it, and he likes talking to me because I've been through it and I give him some pretty decent advice and it's working for him. So he's not, let's put it this way, he's not an alcoholic. He used to be, and this was a long time ago too. And he just has a really bad temper, which is something I had before I got sober and before I changed things in my life. I had a pretty bad temper and things would make me mad really, really easily. And I think it was more frustration, and then it would bring out my temper. And it's something that I don't have anymore. I don't have a bad temper anymore. Just recently my temper flared up, and I think because I got so much going on in my, there's so much shit going on in my head. I think it's just bombarding me, and I've just had a lot of stress and tension, and I think something just came to a head and the old me popped out, and I will get into that a little later. But it just happened very recent, and I'm that's the old me. I don't want to be that guy anymore. And that's the guy that used to get drunk, and that's the guy that used to get mad and get upset and frustrated and throw things and yell and then drink. And I don't want to be that guy anymore. I'm not that guy anymore. I've worked really fucking hard to not be that guy anymore. And it came out and I was like, holy shit. What the hell? How did that happen? But anyway, I want to tell the story of this guy. and I'm not going to reveal his identity. It's just a really kind of cool story because I feel like I'm helping the guy a lot with my experience. Um, so he he's been married. He was married 15 years. He's been divorced for almost 3. He said, but he was married 15 years. He used to drink and do drugs and stuff like that. And he met this woman, and she was very religious, and he decided that this would be the best thing for him because he needed to change his life. And so he converted to the religion, and it helped him, and he got sober. It took him a good year or 2 into the marriage, he said she felt like God put them together so that she could save his life. And it's kind of a weird story. That's what he told me. He's like, yeah, she said that she was put here to save my life, and she did, and it worked. Problem is, he went through a lot when he was younger, when he was really young. A lot of like abuse and just like stuff like that happened, trauma, really bad trauma. He told me a lot about it, and he was like, he went through a lot when he was a kid, and it's manifesting itself now and he's like 45 years old, and it's been throughout his whole life. He's had these issues. He's had very bad anger issues, like where he punches walls and he throws things and yells and screams at his kids. He's got 2 kids with his ex-wife. I think they're 13 and 11 right now, is what he said. Um, and he has this really bad anger issues. So what he was talking to me about the first thing he was talking about was how him and his ex-wife, they argue about, because right now she has custody and he has visitation, which he gets them every other weekend, and he gets them for like 3 days. But during the time where he doesn't have them, she calls him and says, hey, I'm not feeling well, and would you mind taking the kids for a little bit? And then she disappears for like 3 days, which is fine because he gets to see the kids, but he's paying this child support, and it's like for this certain situation, which I know all about that. So it's like he doesn't mind seeing the kids, but he's like, if he's going to do this, then he needs to redo the child support because she feels like she can just call him all the time. And so they argue and argue about that. And then he gets pissed off and he yells and screams at her, stuff like that. And he does it in front of the kids. And he's telling me this. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. I was like, what are you doing? And he says, what do you mean? And, I'm mad and I want to just yell at her and tell her, like, you're wrong. And I said, but are you ever right? Like, is the situation ever where you are found right? Is she ever like, oh, you're so right? And he's like, no, but we fight and fight. I said, so stop doing that. Just stop. Like, you need to work on the anger first. And he said, yeah, that's what she tells me. She says I have to work on my anger, and if I work on my anger and I go to therapy and all this stuff, then I'll be able to have 50-50 custody. But until then, it has to be like this. And I tell her that I want 50-50 custody, and then I can take them, and then you can have your rest, and you can be gone for 3 days. And I guess she's got a new man, and they're plan on getting married. And so he's like, she's always off with her man, and that's what she's doing. She's not sick or anything like that. She just doesn't want to see the kids because she wants to go party with her man. And I was like, then let her. You get to see the kids. And he's like, yeah, but I don't want to pay all this money when I don't have to. And I was like, is it worth it to see your kids? Like, I would do it. I'd pay the money I pay right now just to see my kids more. You know what I mean? I don't care. I just want to see my kids. And, right now I'm in Utah, so it's hard. So they visit. Like, I don't want to get into my situation. My previous situation with my older kids, I had every other weekend. I had 3 days. I had Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and that was it every other week. And that was shit. But if I could see them any other time, I would jump at it. I don't care. I just want to see my kids. It's worth it. It's just money. But so I said, look, so why are you not working on your mental health? Why are you not working on your anger? And he's like, well, I just went through all this stuff when I was a kid, and therapy doesn't work for me. I tried it. I don't like it. And I relate to that. I don't like therapy. But I said, bro, this is for your kids, though. Like, if someone told me you have to go to therapy to work on this issue, and then you can see your kids more, I'd be like, sign me up. How much is it going to cost? I don't give a shit. These are your kids. And he was like, yeah, I didn't think about it that way. And I said, yeah, you got to think about it. Like, you want to see your kids, you got to think about that. And so he was like, I'm going to work on that. I'm really going to work on that. And the next day he tells me, well, I had my kids, and my son, he was talking to me about how, like, I was doing this wrong and I was doing that. And he was starting, he's like, he has ADHD and he was off his meds and he was just bouncing off the walls. He was going crazy and he was yelling at me. And so I got pissed off and I grabbed his shirt and I yelled and screamed at his face and sent him to his room. And then I punched the wall. And I was like, whoa, why? He's like, whoa, whoa. I was like, let me guess something. Your dad used to do that to you. And he was like, yeah, my dad was angry all the time and he was drinking and I said, yeah, your dad had drinking anger issues, right? And he's like, yeah, and I don't drink, but I have anger issues because of all this stuff. And I said, because your dad was like that. And now you're like that. And now let me guess, your 13-year-old son is like that. He's like, yeah, he always has anger and he always yelling and he gets pissed off. And I said, where do you think he gets it? And I'm not the perfect parent. I used to have anger issues, and my younger kids, I mean my older kids, sorry, they used to see some of the anger that I had, and I saw it in, like, especially my son, and I saw things come up that I knew I was causing, and I was like, no, bro, it's like you need to cut the fucking anger. And I said, here's the deal: stop arguing with your ex-wife, because I used to do that, and just like try to be right. You got to come to a compromise. You just got to say, hey, I'll talk to you later about it. And sometimes you just got to step away, and sometimes you just got to let them be right. You don't have to be right. Think about that. I told him, think about that. You don't have to always be right. And so he was like, God, I never thought of that. I just always want to be right with her, and it never works. And so we always fight and fight and fight. So stop with the long texts, stop arguing on the phone, and definitely stop showing anger to her, because all it's going to do is make her realize that, hey, you don't deserve 50-50 custody. And he basically was telling me, like, it's just so hard for me to not get mad. And I said, if you feel that anger coming up, say, I'm going to call you back. Take 10 minutes, take an hour, whatever you need, and then call her back, because you don't need to be yelling at her like that. And especially if you're yelling at your kids like that, I ain't one to tell you how to parent, but they're going back and they're telling her. And then she's saying, oh, he's getting mad with you like that? Okay. All right. He's not ready. Okay. So when you're with your kids and when you're talking to her and when you're texting, no anger. And then he tells me a couple days later, he's like, I just want to date somebody. I want to find someone to date. I was like, why are you even thinking about that? You're not ready for that. You got to work on your head. You got to work on yourself. Once you work on yourself, then you'll be ready for that. You got to work on that. You got to work on your kids. But I'm just lonely because I haven't been with anybody in like a year and a half. And I said, how did that relationship work after if it's been a year, and it was a year and a half. So how long were you with that person? I was with her for like 3 months and it just didn't work. And I said, was it your anger? And he said, yeah, a little bit, but like, it just didn't work out. I said, because you weren't ready. You didn't work on yourself. That brings me back to why I tell you this story. I, after splitting up with my second wife, I didn't work on myself. Okay. I just went into not even really relationships, just like seeing somebody, and I was still mentally messed up. I wasn't right. I wasn't working on myself, and I didn't even try. I just drank. I just said, I'm just going to drink, and that'll be my mental health fix right there, is just not thinking about it and just getting drunk. And the relationships were terrible. They didn't work, and I wasn't working on myself. And then when I decided that I was going to, like, I legit, like, I tell you guys all the time, like, oh yeah, I'm sober. I say it all the time. I know you guys are sick of it, but when I tell you guys that, like, I got sober, I didn't just change that aspect of things. I didn't just say, okay, I'm not going to drink anymore, and then still have all these mental health problems. I took everything I didn't like about myself that I looked at. I looked inward. That's what I told him. I said, look inward. Look at the things you don't like. Look at the things that you're unhappy with. And I said, that's exactly what I did. And I said, I'm having really bad anger all the time. And I'm also very insecure in my relationships. And I've been that way 20 years. With first wife, second wife, I was very insecure in the relationships. And I felt like they were off messing around on me all the time. If they were just gone or out hanging out with friends, I felt like they were with another dude, and I would accuse them of it. I would get drunk and accuse them of it. I even went so far as to driving to wherever one of them was, because I knew where they were, and spying on them. And then a dog comes running after me, and I'm like, oh shit. And they were like, what are you doing here? And I was like, oh, I was just coming to see what you guys are doing. When I was actually trying to spy, because I was drunk. I drove 30 miles drunk to spy because I was so insecure about my relationships. And that's how stupid I was. And it wasn't until I decided that I needed to work on those little things and fix myself and quit drinking, it wasn't until then that I found the best relationship that anyone could ever ask for. And I always tell Alicia, you got a version of me that never existed before, because we basically met right after I said I'm going to make these changes. And she went through a lot of this with me. I was changing myself and trying to be sober and trying to fix my mental health, which is still fucked up, by the way, but it's way better. I was trying to change all these things. I was trying, I definitely fixed my anger issues. I learned how to not get so angry when things don't go my way or when somebody's making me frustrated. I learned to not do that. And I became a different person because I would get angry about the slightest little inconveniences in my life, or someone would say something that I wouldn't like, and I'd get frustrated, or I'd argue with, somebody, and it would just make me mad, and I'd be angry, and I just like, anyway, I had anger issues, just leave it at that. If I was at a store and things were going the wrong way and someone was doing, I'd fucking start talking shit to the fucking person at the store. That's the kind of things I would do. Anyway, I feel like making these changes brought me the best relationship that anyone could ever ask for. But she saw me kind of fighting these demons. She saw me when, especially since I was long distance, we were long distance. I was far, I was living in California. She was in Utah for 4 years. I got very insecure here and there. Like if she was going out with friends or something like that, I'd be like, it would hit me, and it would just that those demons would just invade my soul, and I could not exercise those demons. And I would accuse her of being with another dude. Alicia, my fiance, if you don't know her, that is the furthest thing that she would ever think about doing. And I accused her of that a couple times because those were demons that were in my head. That's mental health. Thinking back right now and thinking about like how strong our relationship is now, I would never accuse her of that. She can do whatever she wants. She can go hang out with a bunch of dudes. I don't give a shit because she's mine, and she loves me. But she gets this version of me, and she helps me fight those demons every day by just being amazing. And so I was telling my friend, work on yourself first, whatever that takes, and you'll be able to work on all the things that are going wrong. And so I started explaining to him all these things that are going right for me. And now, I'm in the best relationship I could ever ask for. And things are basically perfect in my life as far as relationships. But when I was drinking, my mental health was so poor that I didn't feel like I was good enough for the people I was with. And even if they made me feel that way in certain ways, if I thought differently, I would understand that, no, it's fine. Like I'm not, but I took it so hard. Like I would take everything they would say so hard. And it wasn't their fault. It wasn't their fault for saying the things. It was just common, like things that people argue about. But I would take it so hard, oh, I'm the worst fucking person in the world. And then I'd be like, oh, I'm just the worst husband, aren't I? I'm just the worst boyfriend. I'm just the worst, like, fuck me, right? And no, leave me a fucking drink. And then I just drink. And then it would get worse when I get drunk. I just get more angry and more insecure and tell them they're fucking everyone in the world and all this stuff when they weren't. And yeah, it was just like, I was not the best at relationships. And now I feel like I'm really good at it, but it took a lot of time. It took a lot of time. And it brings me back to what I was talking about earlier, where we were in a store, and the damn self-checkout stopped working. And I know I had a whole episode on useless information about how I hate self-checkouts, but sometimes I do use them. In the self-checkout, we're checking out, scan something, and it doesn't and the whole thing says disconnected and doesn't work. So the dude comes up and he's like, oh yeah, you're going to have to find another register. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like waiting for him to say, hey, hold on. They were already in line for 5-10 minutes. Like maybe you can wait a second so they can start. No, he's just go find another register. Oh, maybe that one over there. And then I go to this one that's open, but it's not working. And so I'm like, okay. And I'm standing there like, okay, this one's not working either. And the guy's like, oh, sorry. And I'm like, can you do something? And then I started feeling like this, this energy, just this anger just entering me. And then the guy comes up and like hands me the stuff. He's like, do you still want this stuff? I'm like, yeah, I fucking want it. And he like throws it at me. And then he walks away because he knows I'm getting fucking pissed off. And so then I put it in the car. I'm like, what the fuck? And Alicia, as calm as can be, is like, babe, stop. Like, let's just go to another. We can wait in line again. It's not a big deal. We're not in any. I was like, no, this motherfucker over here. And it's like, and then I'm just angry. And I'm just like, talking to myself. I'm like, oh, fuck this shit. And then I stop and I'm like, what am I doing? And that's the old me that came up. And I apologized. I calmed down. I was like, what the fuck am I doing? And I was still kind of feeling, I was still talking about it. But then I was just like, yeah, I'm so sorry, babe. I was like, that's the old me. And I'm so sorry you had to see that. And she was like, I've never seen you like that before. And I was like, I hope you never, ever do again because that feeling I had was like the old me. And that was the me after years and years of just feeling like shit about myself and just the anger that would come up over little minor inconveniences. I just felt like the dude was being an asshole. Like, you need to help me out here, bro. Like, I already waited in line. I just felt like he's being an asshole. So fuck that guy. But I didn't need to act that way. I could just be like, all right, whatever. And we weren't in a rush. We weren't in any hurry. It wasn't like we needed to rush out of there. We could have waited in line again. I don't care. But my point being, it was just kind of fucked up that came back. So I needed to really think about it. And it just kind of hit me. I was almost like, I was tearing up. So like, who was that guy? Like, I know who that guy is and I fucking hate him. And I told her like, hey, you just got a glimpse of the old me. And like I say, you got a different version of me. And I'm glad that she understands that I do have demons and I fight them every day. And like I told you guys before, I'm fake as fuck. Like, I fight with shit every single day. My mental health is not right. And I pretend that it is. And what helps me is having people that I can talk to about it. And I have, like I said, I talk to Alicia about it all the time and she helps me through it. And I get times where I'm down and I do get times where I just like, I can't fucking cope. The end of, I want to say, this just popped in my head. The end of my drinking, the end of my drunk years, call it. The last few weeks, what really made me want to get sober, I was really, really done with life. I was done with I was ready to just like end everything, no longer be living, if you know what I mean. And I guess it was really like one of those things where you can go up or go down. And I've said this before, but I was really that down. And that's when I decided that I'm better than that shit, you know? Yeah, I've gone through a lot of shit, some of which I might talk about, some of which I probably won't. Been through a lot of shit, but I'm not gonna let it I'm not gonna let it take over my life. I wanna have another 40 years on this flat earth. I wanna have another 40 years. I wanna watch my kids have kids if that ever happens. None of them wanna have kids. I wanna be a grandpa. I don't know. I wanna be better. And now my quest is to make others better and to make others, if they're struggling with it, I want to make you better. I want to make you be able to get past those demons and I want you to learn how to cope with it. Because I've done things in my life that are crazy. I said I didn't want to smoke anymore, so I quit smoking. How many people do you know say I just can't quit? You can only quit if you want to. That's it. No one can make you, no one can do anything for you if you don't want to. Recently watching Intervention. I know you guys know what that show is, where there's, people that are addicted to something. And this one's like, it's talking about like mostly like fentanyl, right? And that shit's no joke, right? But it's also has people that do like everything, like fentanyl, heroin, meth, all together, right? And the main focus of all of that is like there's people that they could get sober. Anybody could get sober. Anybody could do it. You just gotta want to. If you don't want to, you're not gonna do it. It's simple as that. It's that fucking simple. And I wanted to really, really bad. I wanted to for like a year, longer than that, but like I really was in my head like every day going like I need to quit, I need to quit, I need to quit. And then it just got worse and worse and worse because things would happen and I would just let it get to me. And then I said, fuck this, I want this. And that's the only way I was able to do it. I quit smoking. I said, I want this, so I quit. I'm able to do those things. But you can do it too. If you're struggling with it, you can do it too. You just have to want it. And you need to think about that. I really fucking want it. Because anybody, all these people that say, oh, I'm addicted to cigarettes, I'm addicted to cigarettes, I just can't. No, you're not. You just don't want it. You're not physically addicted to it. You can say, I don't want it. You can be physically addicted to drinking, but not really. The only thing that you're worried about is getting sick. You can stop. You can stop drinking. You can. I did. I was really, really addicted. Addicted air bunnies. But I just said I don't want to do it anymore, so I stopped. And like I said, I don't recommend doing it if you're that deep in, but you need to take yourself to a detox and detox medically. I'm lucky that I didn't die because I just did detoxed in my bed, throwing up and sweating and just getting it out of my system, drinking water and then throwing it up, just trying to get it out of my system and go through it. That was probably stupid, but I wanted it really bad. So I said, I'm doing this. And like I said, that other story where I went and bought a bottle because I couldn't handle it and I poured it down the sink. I said, no, fuck this. I can handle this. I can fucking do this. So I did. But that's when it comes to relationships, I didn't know what I was doing before because I didn't know how to act myself. I didn't have a good relationship with myself. So how could I have a relationship with somebody else? But I think I've beat that like a dead horse, um, which I might do a lot. But honestly, it helps me to do this. I really feel like it does help a lot to do an episode like this where I can talk about these kind of things. But anyway, the last thing I wanted to talk about was I don't know if you guys have seen Black Mirror. It's on Netflix. If you haven't, you got to go watch it. So basically, it's like a mind bender type show, but it's all about like technology. Whether it's a lot of technology that doesn't exist right now, but it's stuff that could exist in the future. There's one that's about like a social credit score where people like can up or down, and then if you don't have a certain credit score, then you don't get to do certain things in society, which is actually a thing in China. It's crazy that this could be, and this is something that people have been talking about. There's a whole episode about it. One episode in particular that I wanted to talk about that kind of ties into this. It's the third episode on first season because they have 7 seasons. The seventh season just came out, and I just binge watched it because that's what I do. But I went back and started watching the other seasons, and it's the third episode on the first season. There's only 3 episodes in the first season, and then it just gets better and better as it goes. But the third episode, first season, it's basically these people have these things attached like back here, and it's like wires into your brain, and you can actually like go back and look at memories. So things that your eyes see loads into like a server, and they have this little remote in their hand, and they can like access it, access the memory like right away. So like if somebody says something, like there's a scene where like he calls her like a bitch or something like that, and she's like, you're a bitch," and keeps playing it over and over again. You can project it onto like a television screen, and she just keeps playing it over and over again. He just said it. So anyway, and you can go back and like access any memory you've had. You can also delete memories and stuff like that. Like it's crazy. Um, and the reason I wanted to bring it up is because it ties into like relationships, right? So he basically through like rewatching memories, like they have like a dinner party and she invites a friend over, and he can tell that like there's been something going on with them, the way she laughs at his jokes, the way she looks at him, and then she like looks at him and she's got this like giggly look, and like everything just keeps looking at him like she likes him. And then she looks over at her man. He sees her looking, she's like, oh, hi. And like, he's like, look how you look at him and look how you look at me. Is that, and then she finally admits that they had a relationship. And um, over time and things that they're talking about, realizes that it was like a 6-month relationship, and she was like in love with the guy, and then it just stopped and stuff like that. And um, through then the guy like goes like, do you really want that? Like, would you really want that? Let me ask you that first. Would you really want to be able to go and access these memories that have happened, or do you really want to relive all this stuff? Because what ends up happening with this guy is he just keeps going through all these memories, and then has her pull up memories and says like, this is you and him, and this is not where you said you were, and this is a lot longer than you said you were with him, and blah blah blah. All this stuff keeps coming up. Would you want to re-access that stuff? Because then he goes over to the guy's house and says, delete all the memories, and he's gonna beat him up, and all this stuff. He's gonna kill him if he doesn't delete all the memories. And as he's deleting all the memories, they're on a screen, right? And all these memories get deleted on this screen. And then he looks up, and then he reaccesses his own. Later, he goes back and reaccesses his own memories, and he notices one on the screen of a memory that the dude had that he deleted, but he sees it before it gets deleted. So he blows it up and realizes something, goes back to her, and realizes that there's a memory that the dude had of her, and there's a painting that's in their bedroom. And they end up, splitting up and stuff like that. And it just ruins the rest of his life. And he's like, it's like those things. Yeah, of course she was cheating and that kind of stuff. But like, would you really want to go back and re-access all those memories that you just went through, or even go back and look? Like, I hope that never becomes something that's real. And I have a feeling in the future, with Neuralink and all these things that are going on, it might be something that happened. But I think that like, I wouldn't, there's a lot of things I don't want to like be able to actually go look at in real time, memories that I've had in relationships and stuff like that. Like, there's things that that I have in my head, memories that I hopefully will someday not have anymore. And I would not want to go relive those memories. There's a lot of memories of just other things that have happened in my life that I would not want to be able to reaccess. Just leave them there. Some shit I just want to forget. And memories are memories the way you remember them, I mean, it's better that way. I just hope that's a technology that never comes around. But yeah, it just ends up ruining his whole life because he just couldn't stop going back and looking. And I guess that's how he found out his wife was cheating. But it's like, geez, man, like, I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want to go back and start looking at that shit. But anyway, I hope you guys got something out of what I said. Hope you guys, if you have issues in your relationship, hopefully you can make your relationship better. I hope everybody has like a good relationship with their partner. It's just the best feeling. It took me a while to like actually have that feeling where it's like everything's right. And like I said, I would never talk bad about my exes. It wasn't just their fault. It's also my fault. I wasn't the person that I needed to be in the relationship. So it was kind of a thing that just did not work. And thankful I have my kids. I'm thankful for some of the relationships I had, not with my, my ex-wives, but like partners that I had, because I learned shit I shouldn't do and shit that I don't ever want to be that guy again. And anyway, I'm kind of rambling because I'm trying to cut this off, but I just want you guys to know that, this is super important, and having a good relationship is super important. And I have the best relationship you could possibly have. And I'm very thankful for that. And I wouldn't have it if it wasn't for the fact that I decided to be a better person, because she wouldn't have wanted me. So that's it, guys. I hope you guys really like this episode. I know there's times where I just kind of rambled on about shit, but it's really important to me. So I love you guys. Thank you again for all the support and listening. Look for the Useless Information podcast as well. Go listen to those episodes. They're amazing. And then also go listen to the conference call podcast with my friend Danny B. He's got something special coming up soon too. So I love you guys. I will talk to you soon. Peace.